This video will serve as an introduction to process capability. When we talk about process capability, what we're getting at is we're trying to understand how our process that we're quantifying, that we're tracking, that we're studying lines up to some zones of expectation. The way that I would put this directly, especially from my background, is to say that we can put together different processes, and along with putting together those processes, we're going to have these upper and lower specification limits. These serve as literally zones of acceptability. If you think about it like building a product, literally physically building something, you could look at a dimension that these parts, these things need to be made so that they perform properly or they fit together properly. We can also look at this as a service example and imagine if you're looking at processes within banks and studying those, or you're looking at customer service times, or really anything that you've developed a process for, we can map that out, we can study it, and we can also then apply this notion that we also have to recognize that anything beyond these things, these limits that we've set, represent problems, right? So in our world, we're going to quantify these by looking at what these areas are specifically. What is the size of these things? But understand they represent, problems, scrap, right? Whatever term you want, it's some negative outcome. All right. Now, again, we've been studying these. We choose to look at a picture that's familiar to us. We're going to look at a normal distribution, but we can have all kinds of different shapes and sizes based on whatever function of this curve that we're dealing with. We also can have a situation where we could have a distribution that is not so much that there's too much variation, but if you can imagine, we have our specification limits that look something like this. The issue that we have here is our sample mean is shifted, literally mean shifted away from where we would expect that mean to be. So this is also an issue for us, right? So we're going to quantify these relationships by looking at two different numbers, two different calculations. We're going to look at what's called a process CP and a process CPK. And then we're going to put together some generally accepted rules for how to interpret these numbers, all right? When we look at our main way of evaluating our overall process capability, we're going to focus really clearly on the CPK number. The rules that we're going to use are kind of generally accepted within operations management, and we're going to say that we have a capable process. We're going to say our process is capable, right, if our CPK value is greater than 1.33. We're going to say the process is capable, right, with tight controls if our CPK value is greater than 1 and less than 1.33, all right? And we're going to say the process is not capable if our CPK is less than 1. So again, we're going to calculate these values as we go forward, but these are going to be our generally accepted rules of evaluating these things, is by basically going in and saying specifically where do these measures, the CP and especially the CPK, where do they fall in these rules. That'll be the next demonstration, is specific calculations of those values.